This one. Don't be judgmental. I've been accused of being judgmental. Uh, I don't deny I'm judgmental. I make judgments. But then so do you. Did you ever sit around and say, Sally's got to get her act together? Have you been a manager where you've got somebody who's not pulling their load? Have you been a manager when somebody comes in late? Have you been a manager when somebody doesn't do good work? Who are you? Who are you to say this is not good work? Who are you to make that judgment? Well, I want to suggest that people have a responsibility to judge and to judge others. You better be judging the character of the people you are hanging out with, right? And if you're a responsible manager, you've got to be judging the behavior and the productivity of the people, right, who work for you. You've got to make judgments. I know there's that biblical thing, judge not lest you be judged, but I don't want to get into the context of that. We'll leave that for the theology department. And I think we'll leave judging the motives and that sort of stuff up to all-knowing beings like God or something like that. But you've got to judge people's actions. And the fact of the matter is you do it. Okay, so what do we need then? What we need are, to make a distinction, there's crude judgments and there's well-grounded judgments. And the well-grounded judgments are judgments based on good reasons and universal principles. And, okay, those good reasons and universal principles we're going to take a look at. And when you read through the chapter, What is Ethics, you'll see what questions to ask to get you to some of those reasons. But at any rate, to go back to subjectivism and relativism, I want to say this. There are universal moral laws, and I think clearly there's two of them. One is do good and avoid evil. Now, you may have different opinions of what's good and evil, but that's another thing. But do good and avoid evil, I think there's a good deal of unanimity, too, about what counts as good and evil. And then there's the golden rule, and that's fairly interesting. I do this with a number of my classes because we live in a kind of culture that says, well, everybody's entitled to their own opinion and your beliefs are different than mine and we don't share any agreement. I've come across this list of 6 versions of the golden rule, and it's worldwide. How is it worldwide? Because it encompasses every major religion in the world. And I thought I would share this with you, and then we're going to get on with some other stuff. But let's go around the world, and I'm not going to do cultural studies here. That would take a whole summer, but I think if you do cultural studies, you'll find out that people share other things or share basic principles together. But at any rate, here's the 6 versions of the golden rule. First, good people proceed while considering that what is best for others is best for themselves. That comes from Hinduism, from the Hitopadesa. Second version of the golden rule, thou shalt regard thy neighbor as thyself. That comes from Leviticus, Judaism. And how about a little King James version of the New Testament? All things whatsoever ye would that men should do to you, do ye even so to them. That's Christianity, right? And then, of course, we got Buddhism from the Udana Varga. Hurt on others with that which pains yourself. And then, of course, you've got Confucianism and the Analects. What you do not want done to yourself, do not do to others. And then finally, from Islam, no one of you is a believer until he loves for his brother what he loves for himself. Okay, now why would all the major religions of the world have some version of the golden rule? And I think it's got to do with their fundamental rationality. The Greek philosopher Aristotle, who was the student of Plato, said Okay? We all agree to the principle of identity or the principle of non-contradiction. Right? And what do we mean by that? Leibniz called it the principle of the identity of indiscernibles. Philosophers give crazy names to this stuff. But what it says is, if A is exactly like B, right, then A is B. Now, if you say, I should treat A this way, and B is exactly like A, well, then you should treat B like A. And here's the get over it part. If you recognize that you are no better or worse than anybody else, that you are pretty much the same as every other human being, pretty much the same as every other human being, then what you wouldn't want done to you, you shouldn't want done to them. And if you wouldn't want somebody to do it to you, you shouldn't do it to them. And that's how ethics works. Ethics is not going to give you absolute certitude. In ethics, you're going to say, this is like this. Think of how many times people say, oh, that's like acting like a Nazi. Well, we kind of all agree on Nazism being bad. And if this is like it, then of course this is bad. All right? So we are always arguing what the philosophers call analogically. This is like this. And if it's like this in all relevant respects, and I treat this A this way, I ought to treat B that way if B is the same. It's what people call moral equivalence. Okay? If these two actions are morally equivalent and the one is wrong, then the other one's got to be wrong. So if this business practice is like this business practice and this one's wrong, then that one's going to be wrong. Okay? So that's how we're going to go at some of this argumentation. But I think the simple fact of the matter is, and I call this the get over yourself, I may have said that already, get over yourself philosophy, all right? Simple fact of the matter is you and I are pretty much alike. We got two eyes, a nose, a mouth, barring some sort of catastrophe. We love, we hate, we want other people to like us. We need certain things that we'll talk about later in the course of the semester, all right? But we're pretty much alike. And unless there's some relevant difference, then what's good for you should be good for me. And the way I want to be treated is the way I should treat you. And that's why there's this universal moral law called the Golden Rule. All right? Now, okay, so much for that. I'm going to come back with another lecture next week and start talking about those reasons for action, which will try to frame our course. But I hope this helps a bit. What we're going to do now is, I hope I'm going to see you Monday night. And on Monday night, we're going to do an ethical sensitivity exercise. And we're going to work that. Okay? Well, it's been good having this chat with you. I'll try to do one chat a week to kind of prep you for the course. And they probably won't be all this long. Sorry for taking about 40 minutes, but I hope this has been helpful. And I look forward to seeing you Monday night. Thanks.